Hey everyone, John from 124 Acres. This winter doesn't seem to stop. We have had more snow, I'd say, in the last 2 weeks than I can remember in the past several winters. And the temperature has been bone chilling cold. So, again, I find myself in this nice, warm, cozy shop doing some woodworking projects. And today, what I'm going to show you is I'm going to take a live edge piece of wood, we're going to rip it, glue in some colored pieces in the middle here to make a nice charcuterie board. So what I have here is a nice piece of walnut live edge. And oftentimes what you're going to find when you're buying live edge woods is that some of them will have imperfections in it. Like here you can see the crack. So I'm going to kind of use that crack as a guide, and that's where I'm going to want to try and rip this board right down the middle so we can take it apart and then put our nice colored accent pieces right in the middle of it. So one of the things you have to be careful with, especially when you're working with live edge, is it can be difficult when you rip the board to get a truly clean seam. You can see here I have a gap and it gets actually a little bit bigger towards the end. So this may become an issue when you're trying to glue those accent pieces in between. So what I'll do is run them over to the jointer to really flatten out that bottom piece, and then you'll see how they fit together. Now you can see after going through the jointer, the seams are perfectly flat, and you're going to get a nice tight seam there, especially when we go to glue it up. So here are the accent pieces I'm going to be using. So we have the walnut on the outside, and then we have yellow heart in the thin strips, and then we've got purple heart in the middle. Now what I want to do is I want to rip the yellow heart and the purple heart down just so I want it just a tiny bit thicker than the walnut. And the reason I'm going to do that is when I eventually then run it through the planer, it's easier to take down just these pieces than if I made them lower or shorter than the walnut, then I'm starting to plane more of the walnut. So it's just a bit above the thickness of the walnut, and it should turn out perfect when we start to plane them. So the thickness of the walnut boards is an inch thick. So I'm going to rip these down to 1 1/8 inches. All right, so I've got them ripped down. They're in place. They're not glued together yet. But normally with a cutting board or the coasters we did in the previous video, I would plane this down at this point. I'm not going to do that because it's live edge, gets a little bit finicky. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move over to the glue up table now, glue these together, let it settle up, and then I'll start running it through the planer. So when you're working on a project like this, the only thing that I would caution you about is when you are going to clamp down the pieces after you've put the glue on, because the live edge is not a straight edge, you're not going to get a perfectly tight seam where you can really kind of reef down on it to glue them. So you want to move very slowly and watch for any kind of slippage. Let's say if I tighten down on this clamp and it pushes the piece one way or the other. So just kind of sneak up on it and go slow. Alrighty, so the charcuterie board is in the glue up table. What I'm gonna do now is I'll let this settle overnight and get back to it in the morning. But what I'm gonna do is run into town and just go get a couple of cheap kitchen handles, like kitchen cabinet handles. And I'll use those as the handles that we'll use on the charcuterie board. So when you're walking around, you can actually hold it by the handles. All right, so I've pulled the charcuterie board out of the glue up table, and now we have to run it through the planer to get rid of all this old dried on glue, and then we'll move on to sanding it. Alrighty, so we have it off the planer. It's relatively smooth right now, but I'm going to hit it with a 320 grit sandpaper to make it super, super smooth. Then we'll put the handles on it and finish it with the mineral oil. So I picked up these brass handles from Home Depot. I think they'll look really nice on the board once they're finished. So I'll just screw the holes through the wood and then we will attach them. Now I'm just going to countersink the holes that we put on the back just so the head of the screw that's going to hold the handle can be flush with the board. All right, so the handles are on the board, and now comes the best part of this whole process, and that's putting the mineral oil on. All right, everyone, we finished another woodworking project. I think this turned out fantastic. It's a nice charcuterie board. I think the handles are a great addition to it to dress it up a little bit. They do make great gifts if you're going to give them to people. So anyways, I'd love to know what you think about this in the comments below. And as always, if you could hit that 124 acre button to subscribe, truly means the world to us. And we will see you guys next week.